Breaking news tonight. Diddy hungry? Sean Combs apparently refusing jail food. Some say he's missing his private chef and convinced he will be poisoned.
But he's sitting in the shoe. He's in the hole. And this guy is going through loneliness, anxiety, desperation. He's on. So his entire existence is to sit in this little cell, essentially. He can shower 3 times a week. He's not getting any real visits if his lawyer does a legal visit.
Look, Diddy's not just fighting his legal battle, he's got to worry about his safety inside too. Former prison officials are saying he could be a target just because of his fame, and that's why he's in the SHU. It's not exactly where you want to be, but it's a necessary move to keep him from being an easy mark. According to TMZ, Diddy's in isolation for a reason. There's a very real chance other inmates could come after him, whether it's for clout or just because of who he is. Former MDC Brooklyn warden Cameron Lindsay even confirmed that keeping Diddy in the SHU is all about protecting him from potential threats. But here's the thing, life in the SHU is no walk in the park.
But one former warden who worked at the facility says Combs' life could still be in danger there. And that former warden is Cameron Lindsay, and she joins me now.
Of acts of violence against women make him a very attractive target.
All right.
Obviously, they need to safeguard him.
And it doesn't end there. The conditions in the special housing unit are tough. 23 hours a day in your cell, limited communication, and barely any interaction with other inmates. For someone used to a life of luxury, this is a whole new reality. And it seems like Diddy might not be able to handle it all, as clips of his kids recently surfaced where they decided to visit Diddy at prison. For those who missed it, let me play it a bit for you.
How you doing this morning? How's it going, Justin? Quincy, how you feeling this morning? How are the twins?
As most of y'all know, at the start of 2023, Diddy was living the high life aboard a super yacht in St. Bart's, celebrating with his then-girlfriend Young Miami and other celebrity friends. Fast forward to now, and the music mogul's reality couldn't be more different. Following his September 16th arrest on charges of sex trafficking and racketeering, Diddy is now behind bars in Brooklyn's notorious Metropolitan Detention Center, which is known as the living hell on earth. Why would I say that? Because the inmates inside this prison are monsters. They don't care if Diddy is a celebrity or not, and that is one of the reasons Diddy is being protected inside the jail cell. Who would have thought the lavish luxury of a yacht, complete with a helipad and jacuzzi, will be traded for a small, plain jail cell? Anyway, as for his attorney, Mark Agnifilo, expressed concerns over Diddy's safety in the detention center, noting that the jail is a dangerous place and that high-profile inmates like Diddy could be potential targets. Adding to the discomfort, Agnifilo mentioned the poor quality of food in the facility, calling it inedible. Despite these concerns, Diddy remains incarcerated after being denied bail. Diddy's life inside jail. So, Diddy's life at MDC is nothing like the plush, high-roller vibe he's used to. We're talking about a man who was popping champagne bottles on yachts and living in a $35 million mansion with a private security team, surrounded by family and luxury. But now, his reality is looking real grim. Let's just say, this ain't St. Bart's, okay? MDC in Brooklyn is notorious for being one of the worst federal detention centers in the country. Word from past inmates is that the conditions are harsh, no air circulation, and the food, slop. Diddy, who's used to the good life, is now having to face strip searches, barely any shower access, and the constant threat of violence. Like, imagine going from luxury yachts to dealing with that. It's giving major fall from grace. Initially, they had Diddy on suicide watch, which means constant surveillance, strip searches every time he left the cell, and those bright fluorescent lights blaring 24/7. Yeah, not a vibe. Now, he's been moved into protective custody with other high-profile inmates. He's sharing space with folks like Sam Bankman-Fried, and in the past, people like R. Kelly and Ghislaine Maxwell were housed there too. The protective custody section has single-man cells that are even smaller than the usual ones, and has a tiny recreation deck, like 500 square feet. Not exactly the Hamptons, you feel me? In addition to that, a former inmate recently told in an interview with News Nation that Diddy is out of luck, and someone will definitely hurt him inside prison.
And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it, where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job. There are sentenced inmates there. They're called cadre inmates. They don't have to be white-collar inmates, but they're doing maintenance on the building. And the problem, why there's a lot of violence there, they have housing units. And they're mixing bank robbers, drug dealers, rapists with white-collar people. And this is why Diddy, he can't go into a regular housing unit because somebody will take him out for sure. Somebody's gonna get a lot of street credibility out of this.
Gone are the personal chefs, assistants, and staff catering to every whim. He's now on MDC's strict routine. That means a 6 a.m. wake-up call, a shower only every other day, and let's not even talk about the food. The murder burgers and shoe leather chicken patties they serve up aren't exactly 5-star dining. You know Diddy's used to the good life, but here he'll be lucky to snag some extra snacks from the commissary once he's able to access it. And the wardrobe? Forget the designer fits. They handed him 2 basic uniforms, 3 pairs of socks, and, wait for it, used undergarments. That's a long way from the Sean John drip. He's also got regular strip searches to look forward to, and yes, that means the whole deal. Clothes off, bend over, squat, and cough. Communication is restricted too. He's got 300 minutes a month for phone calls and emails. They cost, and they're text-only, heavily monitored. Visits are limited and come with background checks, so even seeing friends and family won't be easy. Basically, Diddy's gone from the top of the world to dealing with the gritty reality of MDC life. No McQueen, no Gucci, no luxury yacht. Just a cold, hard reality check. But believe me, that's not even the worst part. You see, MDC Brooklyn has a notorious reputation for being one of the toughest federal jails out there, and Diddy's experience is shaping up to be no different. We're talking about a facility where violence and neglect run rampant. Back in 2020, Jamel Floyd lost his life after being pepper sprayed by correctional officers, and just this past July, inmate Edwin Cordero was fatally injured in a fight. The conditions are grim. Rats, overcrowding, and neglect are the norm. Edwin's widow Ashley didn't mince words. That prison is disgusting. No human being should be living like that. And her advice to Diddy? Don't trust anyone. There's a bit of a hierarchy inside. And Diddy's fame might not give him the clout people assume. According to one former inmate, while Diddy's rich status might help him get extra food or more time out of his cell if the guards take a liking to him, it's also a place where status doesn't necessarily translate. Inmates who were considered a 10 on the outside might drop to a 5 in there. So despite all his celebrity, Diddy's facing a harsh reality. And with charges like his, people are likely to be gunning for him. Let's just say it's a whole different world inside those walls. Not gonna lie, but in prison, inmates with charges like his, especially those involving SA, are often targeted, which could put Diddy in a very dangerous spot.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs spent his first night behind bars inside a facility that is being called Hell on Earth. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is notorious for its appalling living conditions and rampant violence.
Now, the details surrounding his charges are wild. In that 14-page indictment that dropped on September 17th, prosecutors claim Diddy engaged in a long-running pattern of verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, stretching back decades. The part that really has everyone talking, his so-called freak-offs. These were allegedly orchestrated, produced sex parties where Diddy would lure women into some dark situations, often involving male sex workers, drugs, and force. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 parties. These were elaborate events, often in hotel rooms, where women were allegedly drugged, coerced, and then videotaped. In addition to that, the recent charges even claim that Diddy promised a young 9-year-old boy to get a record deal in exchange for doing shady stuff.
He was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15. 25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of.
Anyway, this arrest isn't just a one-off. It comes after a flood of lawsuits, the most notable one coming from his ex Cassie Ventura, who accused him of abuse and forcing her into these kinds of acts. The Insider says Cassie, who's now happily moved on with her family, feels relieved that Diddy is finally behind bars. She's been through a lot, and knowing that this chapter could be closed for good is validating for her. If convicted, Diddy could face 15 years to life in prison, but the exact sentence would depend on whether he strikes a plea deal or opts to fight the charges in a trial. Jennifer Bidel, a former assistant U.S. attorney, explained that the sentencing hinges heavily on this decision. According to Diddy's lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, they're preparing to take the case to trial, firmly believing in his innocence. In a recent interview, Agnifilo stated they're gearing up for a legal battle and are confident about the outcome.
I don't know that I could keep him off the stand. I think he is very eager to tell his story, and I think he will tell every part of his story, including what you see on the video.
So, what do y'all think? Will Diddy take the plea or fight it out in court? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and while you're at it, make sure you check out our other videos breaking down Hollywood's most shocking scandals.